So welcome to everyone. I've been asked, but I know first of all that it shows that you are truly interested in hospitality. Being here in Cergy on a Saturday morning is a true proof of interest. So I appreciate that, and I want to thank you for being here. I've been asked to give a talk on the latest developments and trends in the hospitality business. In fact, I've been asked first to do it for the hospitality industry. And I've decided to change. I've decided to call instead of hospitality industry, I've decided to call it the hospitality business. And one of the reasons for this is that a lot of people have a tendency of looking at the hospitality industry as being more of a craft type of sector. Traditional hotel schools, and I've actually gone through a very traditional hotel school in Switzerland many years ago, actually. Tend to teach the actual craft of hospitality. In other words, the handshaking and bacon cooking techniques. This is not what we do. And I think there are many reasons for not teaching that anymore. And hopefully throughout this talk, you will understand why we're doing things with a much more business orientation, much more business-orientated coursework. Okay, so this is 21st century hospitality business, the latest trends and developments. How many of you have a hospitality background? Just raise your hand. There's no. All right. So we'll see how much you know about the developments in the hospitality industry. Not necessarily the latest one, but also the ones of the past 20 to 30 years. Hello. There we go. I think it's always wise when we try to actually look into the future, it's always wise to actually think at the past and look at the past and the history. And this is a word of wisdom that you see here, that you should be seeing. Study the past if you would define the future. And it's very interesting to look at the past 30 years of developments in the hospitality industry. In fact, it's interesting, in December last year, so 2013, The Economist. Now, you know The Economist, the publication, all right, which is probably one of the top leading business journals in the world, and they tend to be quite, up to date in what they say generally. And for the first time, there was an article on the development of the hospitality business in The Economist, and it was a very naive article, actually, talking about, wow, the hospitality industry has changed. It's no longer, a simple hotel where you have people, running it as if it was just a place where we welcome people, we host them in rooms, we give them some food, etc., etc. So they just realized, The Economist, back in December 2013, that the industry truly is a increasingly specialized business. And hopefully we'll see that through this talk. So the origins, decided to go through with a few bullet points of what I think are some of the major, let's say, developments that we have seen. Obviously, starting with the first one, and first hotel to be opened, and there are some debates here. There's another. The Guinness Book actually records the first hotel about 2 years later, still in Japan, but I found out that this one had been opened 2 years earlier. It's not in the Guinness Book, but still, so there are some debates. But it all started in 705, to be honest, as a real hospitality business and not simply people hosting their friends. Now, since then, obviously, a lot of things have changed. So fast forwarding, we see that starting in the late 70s and early 80s, we've seen the true beginning of the internationalization of the hotel industry. At the time, you had the Hyatt, the Marriott, and some other major hotel chains started to really truly look internationally to develop their businesses. And this is obviously linked to the development of trade and commerce and globalization, and also of the developments in air travel and in all transportation systems that we have seen at the time. But that was really the true beginning of the international growth of hotel chains. As you can see, our program was a pioneer in the sense of opening up to the international, let's say, teaching of the hotel business. We have been created in '81, and Cyril will actually give you more details on the creation of the institute. In the 1990s, what we've seen is the beginning of what we have called the brand proliferation effect in the hotel industry. The first question I have for you, and I have a microphone for those who want to answer. The first question I have is, do you know how many brands Marriott International has today? How many brands? Just give me a, like...
20?
No, but it's close. No, it's less. It's less. How many brands? You're not far, actually. I was expecting something way off, but you're not. How many brands? Guess.
16.
16. No, it's right in between. It's here. It's 18. It's 18 brands. 18 brands. I mean, think about it. 18 brands for Marriott International. How many can you name? Marriott? Well, there are some suites, yes. Huh? Courtyard Marriott by Marriott was the second brand of Marriott, in fact. Renaissance. Ritz-Carlton, if you consider that as a Marriott brand, which they do, but it's still managed in a somehow different way. Yes. So we had 5, thank you. We still have like 13 to go, so. All right, let's stop here. I mean, I don't have enough fingers. I don't know about you, but I don't have 18 fingers. And very difficult to realize. But 18 brands is a lot. And all of the other ones, I stopped counting brands. There was a time 5 years ago I was counting every year. I was updating my list of how many brands each of these companies had. And I said, stop, because it's a crazy game. They keep adding brands. So this really was a major change in this industry. And there are many reasons for them to develop new brands. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's one of the major developments. Another one, which is probably the true turning point in that industry, was the separation of what we call the bricks and the brain. Not sure if really we should say that, because it's as if in the real estate they have no brain, only bricks, and in the operation and distribution they have a brain, and not sure about that. But basically that was a separation, the first major separation of a traditional hotel company between two different entities, right? An operating company with the brands, as we know it today is Marriott International, and another one, a real estate investment trust, which is truly a real estate owner or ownership company, which used to be called Host. Marriott is now called Host International, and it's a major real estate investment trust. So that was really a true turning point. It took them actually 5 years to go through that separation of the bricks from the brains. In the 1990s still, and there's no clear date about that, there was another significant development in the industry, which was Sabre developed the first truly automatized in many ways or professional revenue management system for mostly the airline industry, but also for the hotel business. Have you heard about Sabre? Sabre was actually, it's an interesting story, but Sabre was a division of American Airlines. And at the time, Sabre was just a small division of American Airlines. And at one point, as they started to develop their capabilities in handling electronic transactions, whether they were bookings, but also the revenue management system and all of that, Sabre started to be more valued than American Airlines itself. So when you have a division that starts to become more valued from a capitalization standpoint than the parent company, then what happens is you spin off. So Sabre was spun off from American Airlines. And that was in the 90s, major developments. Sabre then, again, launched Travelocity. Have you heard Travelocity? It's one of the online travel agencies that exists out there, not necessarily the biggest one, about the same years. Microsoft created Expedia. And all of these divisions, all of a sudden, the Travelocity division became more valued than the Sabre entity. So again, they spun off Travelocity as a separate, quasi-separate company. That was in '96. Then, 2 years later, Priceline was founded. So these are still young companies by many, let's say, normal, traditional standards. 98 is only 15 years ago, right? All right? Do you know Hotels.com? Part of Expedia, right? So a lot of these companies and hotel websites are part of these big online companies, electronic companies. Now, 1999, another, not sure if this is a major milestone, but this is an example I'd like to use later on. The Burj Al Arab in Dubai was opened and called itself the first true 7-star hotel, right? Have you ever been to Dubai? No? Good friend of mine, Swiss guy, has its suite on a yearly basis at Roger Federer. Stays there all the time. They play tennis on the rooftop. But it was deemed as the first truly 7-star hotel. Knowing that in France, the classification, the ranking, or rating system has only been changed and added. We added a 5th star only, 2 years ago, was it? Yes. And they were at the 7th star already back there, back then and in the Middle East. So that was also, I think, looking back at these developments, that was a sign of something, and it continues to be a sign of something today, I think. So we're going to look at this in a few minutes. So if we look today at what the hotel business or hospitality business is, or how it looks like, we can see really it has a value chain made of 4 key sets of activities, really, that we can clearly distinguish and differentiate. We have, where is it? It's here. We have the operators, we have the brands, we have the owners, and we have the distributors. And we can clearly today define these as 4 key sets of value-adding activities. And there are a lot of things that are going on in between these 4 sets of entities or of activities, let's say. Now, oops, forgot. Did you see that? No, you didn't. Huh? So I'm going to ask you the question then. So, if we think about the hotel business as a set of 4 key value-adding activities: operators, brands, distributors, and owners. Tell me if you know some of the companies that are the largest for each of these activities. And my first question is about the operators. In your opinion, who operates, i.e. run the day-to-day business, who operates the most hotel rooms in the United States? Which company? Yeah, so if you've seen the slide, then it's...
Best Western?
Best Western is not a chain per se, right? So they don't, I mean, it's not the same.
Starwood?
No.
Hilton?
No. No. Someone else? No. I don't know. Yes?
I don't know.
Good. All right, so who operates, run the day-to-day business for the most hotel rooms in the United States? Interstate Hotels and Resorts, which also has a very strong partnership with the largest Chinese hotel company, Xinjiang Hotels. They also started a joint venture in India, right? They actually probably operate, although the statistics are not necessarily very reliable at the moment, but in Sochi, they are probably the company operating the most hotel rooms in Sochi, right? Not sure if they're all open, by the way, but at least the ones that are probably mostly operated by Interstate. All right, next company. I need to verify the sequence of my questions. Next question. Which company owns, you remember we have these 4 sets of activities. Who owns, which company owns the most hotel rooms worldwide?
Intercontinental.
No.
Leading hotels of the world?
No, they don't own anything. Leading Hotels is a label.
Hilton?
No. No. Well, I see about 70 people who really truly need a decent hospitality education in this room. No, it's the Blackstone Group. The Blackstone Group. Right? Private equity fund. Have you heard about the Blackstone Group before? No? Well, you'll hear about them if you actually work in this industry, because they are major owner of hotels. And they are very, very professional in the way they manage the actual real estate components of the hotel business. Very professional. Third question, you see the sequence. Oh, now maybe that one you'll get it right. Which entity or company has the most hotel rooms branded under one of its brand name worldwide? Yes, thank you very much. Yes, it's IHG. Although there is a competitive battle going on here with the major hotel groups that we typically know, right? The big names that we typically know because they are the brands, they are the ones that we see when we book a hotel room. IHG currently has the most hotel rooms under its brand, but they're not managing most of them. Most of them are under franchise agreements. And they actually, I think they still own one hotel, right? They have over 4,000 hotels, close to 5,000 actually, and they only own one. Okay, and I'm thinking at the moment they're trying to sell it, potentially to Blackstone. All right, so the last question is about the distributors. Distributors, so my question is, which company spends the most marketing money in online advertising for hotel rooms? In other words, they all try to sell hotel rooms through the web, right? Yes? Which of these companies actually spends the most in online advertising?
Expedia.
No, but you were close. No, it's their parent company. Okay, you're getting it. It's Priceline.com. Just for you to understand, Priceline.com has an online marketing budget, not offline, not total marketing budget, just online marketing budget, right? Paid ads in Google, etc., etc. Their online marketing budget is $1.2 billion US dollars, right? IHG total marketing budget on and offline for all of the properties, also the kind of local marketing, let's say, programs that they do local at the local level. The Holiday Inn that's doing a little marketing, campaign, etc., etc. The total system-wide marketing fund is 1.2 billion. Priceline just for online has the same, right? Just to give you some kind of a way to reflect on this. So clearly, it's been an industry that has gone through various phases of what we call us academics. And also professionals, I guess, but an industry that has gone through a phase of disintegration of its value chain. And what we've seen is, I know this looks like, wow, complicated. Cyril told me this morning, I said, don't show them that, they won't come. But this is a graphic that shows, it's part of a research we're doing on trying to understand how industries evolve and why they evolve in certain ways. You can apply this graphic to various industries, whether it's from the mortgage origination or mortgage industry, if you want, from the origination, etc., to the automobile industry, and also to the actual hotel business, right? And what we see is that there are different types of evolutions that we see in certain industries. And you have industries that are at the very early stage of their life cycle, right? Basically, there is no real specialization. And that's at the time, if you want, of an industry where we had historically hotel companies that were both owning the hotel, making the renovations in the hotel, making sure that they had the right supply of furniture, but also selling the hotel rooms, also taking care of the cleaning of the hotel rooms, also taking care of the food and beverage outlets. So that was a time when hotel companies were all doing everything within that value chain. And what we see is as industries evolve, they typically start to specialize. So there's a phase, if you want, maturity phase here. They mature in terms of size, they become bigger. Their growth rate starts to slow down at one point. And what we see is on the vertical axis here is that the kind of capabilities that they have start to specialize. And they specialize and they start to separate between various entities, right? And to illustrate this graphic here, this is what happened and what is currently still happening in this industry. You've had that first split of Marriott International and Host Marriott. They were the first movers in this industry. They realized that they had two different sets of skills, which are called capabilities. One was buying and selling real estate, developing real estate, ensuring that the renovation process was value adding, let's say. And they had another set of capabilities, which was about actually running hotels and marketing hotels. And they started to specialize in these two divisions. And at one point, they realized that they no longer had to be the same company to continue to grow. And in fact, they realized that they would be potentially better off being separate companies so that they could actually grow at a different pace, right? The Marriott brand growing faster in terms of room numbers than the actual owners. So they initiated that movement. And what we see is that we had some other people following, which started to really also specialize, and Intercontinental really started to specialize in the marketing and in the development of brands. Intercontinental today is mostly franchising hotel brands. So they don't even manage the hotels, they franchise. They provide a business system that works and various support functions. But it's not them actually working in the hotel. So they truly specialized in that domain. And obviously you had the other guys like Interstate that started to truly specialize in the actual running of the day-to-day operations of the hotels. So really we saw kind of movements toward increasing specialization of the hotel business, which means increasing needs for higher professional standards for people who actually work in that industry, right? Specialization, very important. Now, what we're seeing is that Starwood has been a little late, but for various reasons that are more due to financial engineering reasons as opposed to a real movement. But what we're seeing is that for European companies, and I could have added other than Accor, I could have added, let's say, Whitbread, I could have added some other more European companies, also Asian companies. We see that they're a little late in the game because their economies are different than the North American economy, obviously. But they are also following the exact same movement. Accor has recently named a new chief executive, Sébastien Bazin, to replace Denis Hennequin, who was the previous chief executive. They change chief executives every 2 years at Accor, sometimes faster. But why? Because it's a period of transformation for companies in Europe. They know they need to specialize. Problem is it's difficult to know exactly how. And so it's a very tough job. That's why probably they change CEOs very frequently. But in his latest, Sébastien Bazin, the new chief executive of Accor, in his latest presentations to shareholders during the Investors' Day conference, said that he started to internally separate the real estate with what he called a division called Hotel Invest from the operations and the marketing and branding of the business, which is called Hotel Service Division. So he already internally separated the structure. Honestly, he said publicly that it's not a sign that they will separate the business officially at a later stage, but nobody's naive, so it's going to happen at one point. So they're going to separate because there is a need for that specialization to be competitive in that business. Now, if we now zoom into, we have these 4 key value-adding activities, and now decided to zoom into one of them to talk about the kind of trends that we see here. Decided to zoom into the brands and show you that it has really truly become a professional type of specialization in the hotel business. So what are the trends? Well, first of all, as we discussed, you see 18? See, I counted 18, right? So here, I just wanted to show you the evolution of this and why adding new brands is so important in the hotel industry today. As we see, this is the growth in number of rooms. So on this axis here, you have the number of rooms that are branded under one of the brands of Marriott. Here, obviously, you have the years, right? From 85 to 2013, which is the latest data available we have. And here, on this axis here, we have the number of brands, right? In red, number of rooms. In light blue, here, number of brands. And here in something that looks like it's black, I'm not sure, but basically I wanted to correlate that to the actual growth in travel and tourism in general. So this is international arrivals globally, which is a metric measuring the growth of the travel and tourism business. But essentially, to cope with that growth in international tourism activities, what hotel companies have done is they've started to create more brands. I mean, can you see that the 2 lines are almost on top of each other? So the more they need to add rooms, the more they need to add brands, right? Or the reverse. I mean, I'm not sure about the causation here, but the more brands they add, the more able they are to add new rooms. And there are various reasons to that. There are various reasons that we will be discussing in a minute. Okay, so I'll discuss that in a minute. This is another way of illustrating the role of brands. This is from the United States market, and as you see, in the United States, which I took the US to be honest with you because the line is more dramatic. If you take Europe, it's a little less, so I'm somehow biasing here the analysis, but what you see is from the 90s to 2010, the number of rooms in the supply side of the hotel business in the United States. And clearly what we see is that there has been an exponential growth, mostly starting in, let's say, the late 70s, early 80s, right? Exponential growth, growing exponentially. And we see that 100% of that growth has really been coming from brands, branded hotels as opposed to independent hotels, right? I mean, this is very obvious from looking at that chart. So this is the role of brands, right? Another way to illustrate this. Now, another way or final way to look at this, if you want at a more global level, is to look at how these brands are now kind of positioning themselves to take advantage of the growth in world tourism in general. And there are different ways to look at it. This is the global supply in millions of rooms as of end of 2013 for the various, let's say, zones in the world. We have Middle East and Africa where we have 300, this is in millions, so 300,000 branded hotel rooms and about 900,000 independent hotel rooms. We see that in Latin America, 400,000 branded hotel rooms, 1.2 million independent hotel rooms. Now, the takeaway here is to see that North America, which is not the largest market, because it's Europe. Europe is the largest market for hotel rooms. North America has been really, let's say, is mature. Brands are there. There's enough brands. They've already taken over most of the market, and I'm not sure they can capture much more of that market. But the other striking thing here is to look at Asia Pacific and Europe. This is where the brands are looking at opportunities. And there are plenty of opportunities for these brands. So what they're doing at the moment is really trying to develop new brands that can actually take advantage of each of the opportunities that are presented by the various structural aspects of these markets. And some of these opportunities are, for Middle East and Africa, new built development, greenfield project, new hotels that are coming up. And so the brands are trying to actually get into that business. So for that, they need brands that have a very strong identity. Why? Because the building is not built. So they can actually build what it is that they want, really. So very strong identity so that they can attract interest from owners. That's the key. So they want sexy brands, the W's of the world, right? You know W? This is the kind of brands that they're trying to push in these markets because they're sexy for owners, and since they need to build a hotel anyway, it doesn't, you know, they don't need to be brands that are flexible, so they can be very strong brands. Other markets here, same thing for Latin America here, although the market is probably more in the economy segments, and that's where you see companies like Accor penetrating this market very strongly with standardized brands like Ibis, right? Ibis Red, I mean not the Ibis Styles or others. Why Ibis? Because it's very attractive from an owner standpoint, standardized, and for new build project, it's great. Because building an Ibis is not rocket science, right? It's all standardized, so you can build it quite... So that's what they do, so they push for these brands there. Asia Pacific, you still have rooms probably for new built hotels, depending on whether, you know, how the emerging countries are going to fare in the near term, but generally there probably are some new built opportunities. But there are also some new types of opportunities which are converting some of these 3.1 million independent into branded hotels, right? And we'll see the kind of strategies that they adopt for these markets. Then North America, independent, here we see, I mean, there's almost no room for new hotels. As a matter of fact, over the past 5 years in the US, there has been a net decrease of hotel rooms supplied, right? More rooms out than rooms in, new rooms, right? So why? Because obviously the recession, but also because the market is already quite mature. So here the key, or the name of the game is trying to, if possible, convert some of the independent into the brands, or convert competing brands into our brands. That's the name of the game there, and we'll see also some of their tactics or strategies. And finally, for Europe, it's essentially an independent to brand conversion strategy. So a lot of these hotel brands or hotel chains are developing brand specifically to attack the market in Europe for converting independent into branded supply. And we see some of these brands shortly. By the way, if you have any question, just raise your hand. I have the microphone if you need. Okay, some of these trends. So, new brands targeting the millennials. We see that there are some new, and this is to create some sexy brands for new developments, generally speaking, and we'll see an example of that. Do you know what the millennials are? Also called Generation Y, people that are aged between, say, I guess I would say between 15 to about 30 years of age, 35, right? New breed of travelers, the new people that are coming in that are very different than the previous breed of travelers that used to be the baby boomers. They have different tastes, different attitudes, different behaviors, unfortunately. But that was a joke. But all right, the other brand development, soft brands, developing brands that are not truly brands as we used to define them. They are soft brands, so that they can ease the conversion of independent to brands. Development of new brands so that they can manage the life cycle of brands. We're reaching a point where the baby boomers who have fueled the growth in the hotel business are no longer necessarily the travelers of tomorrow. So the brands are planning for that, and they are managing the life cycle of their brands. And we see that some of them are letting some old brands die and create new ones to actually ensure that they have future brands there. We'll talk briefly about CapEx requirement. CapEx stands for capital expenditures, key component in the hotel industry because it's all related to renovation and the changes in the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And this is a significant element in managing brand life cycle. Have you seen there's a Novotel not too far from here? No? Have a look. Because this is a dinosaur. This is the old breed of Novotels, which clearly is in need of CapEx, right? And they probably postpone the CapEx because they don't have sufficient cash to actually pay for this renovation. Okay, so this is a significant issue to refresh the hotel. There are some strategies there as well. Another trend is the creation of brands for ultra luxury or for budget and ultra budget. And what we see is that the ones that used to be the kind of middle class brand is disappearing. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. Glocalization of brands also, some kind of slight twists so that they can actually tap on some of the opportunities in the emerging markets. So they're trying to localize the flavor of some of their existing brands. So the example for the millennials, for instance, is that was announced in March last year, the joint venture of IKEA and Marriott, right? You've heard about this? With the new Moxie brand, right? This is one of the developments that we've seen. Moxie is a brand and has nothing to do with IKEA trying to sell its furniture through the brand. I mean, a lot of people thought that IKEA would supply the furniture and Marriott would sell the room. In fact, not at all. It's a different venture for IKEA. It's not selling furniture. Moxie really is a hotel that has been designed to attract people that are 25 to 35 years of age, that are travelers, that wants to have, let's say, cozy atmosphere in the hotel, public space that is sufficiently nice so that they can actually lounge and hang out in the public space as opposed to staying in their rooms. Nice bars with as opposed to the bars that we have seen in the past where they can have a drink and discuss and socialize. And also all of the latest technology, but there's also a sense of obviously being somehow a little bit socially responsible there, and as you can see here with the reduce, reuse, and recycle, which is also good from a cost standpoint for the hotel operation. But Moxie is an example of that. Other brands are developing. I could have showed other brands like Elements and some other brands from companies, but this is a significant movement, and this is essentially to actually try to target new builds. These brands are still for new build developments. Soft conversion or soft brand for conversion. You probably know some of these brands. Mercure, which has been, let's say, reinvented lately, is a brand where we have very soft brand standards. And Mercure is designed to easily convert hotels without having to invest much into changing the features of the rooms, right? So the brand is more, let's say, brand standard is more on the, let's say, attitude, staff attitude or kind of service or the atmosphere that you would find as opposed to it's 26 square meters per room, et cetera, right? And they've changed that. M Gallery is another one more on the upscale side for Accor, very soft brand. It's also cheaper for existing hotels to actually get an M Gallery flag as opposed to another type of flag for competing firms. Autograph Collection, you know this? This is from Marriott. And in fact, Autograph Collection doesn't even show the name Marriott, but it shares some of the capabilities of Marriott, such as its distribution system, sales and marketing power, and also the centralized purchasing system that they have. But Autograph Collection is a very easy way to convert hotels. In fact, in Paris, they are looking at a number of independent hotels that are on the previously 4-star hotels that have just gone up to the 5-star level in Paris. And they're looking at these hotels, these people who want to stay somehow independent, but would be willing to actually have the power of Marriott to bring in some of the American customers. And this is a brand that has been designed to convert these hotels. I can name some hotels. The Hotel Napoleon, for instance, in Paris, would probably be considering Autograph affiliation, right? So as an example, I'm not saying that they will, but I don't know, obviously. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you. So this is to show the actual phenomena of conversion, very significant. This is for the entire decade. In the 90s, total number of rooms converted in the US, and I'm sorry, other markets are less easy to analyze with valid statistics. The US market is much more transparent. But the phenomena is the same, is coming the same in Europe and in Asia Pacific. In the 90s, only 159,000 rooms had been converted from independent to brand or from brand to brand. The following decades, a little more, 180,000 about, right, rooms. And here, just in 3 years, from 2010 to 2012, already 205,000. I mean, think about it. I mean, if this is not a significant trend, I don't know what is. So this is truly a trend, and a lot of these companies are today spending a lot of time working on their brands so that they can speed up the conversion. I think given time requirements here, I'm going to skip this one because I would have to spend a lot of time. So here, managing brand life cycle and CapEx requirement. This is a life cycle, conceptual life cycle figure, if you want. You have introduction phase, kind of maturity phase, and then here you have to make a decision. Do you push to make it continue and continue to grow, or do you let it die? And after 30 years of growth, hotel companies are now starting to define their brand life cycles and have clear strategies on which one they are willing to let die and which one they are willing to actually continue to grow. And in Starwood, there's a clear here. Element is a new, Element by Westin is a new brand of Starwood. Well, not totally new, but fairly new brand. Westin and Sheraton are obviously mature brands, right? And 4 Points is a brand that Starwood is clearly willing to let die. Why? Because it's no longer in tune really with the world around it. It's a brand that has struggled for years. And in fact, they are offering these brands, 4 Points, to owners who are not willing to commit investment to move into one of these 3 brands. They say, okay, you have an old hotel, either you're willing to actually spend X number of millions and convert into a brand that is fresher, or you go down to the 4 Points. So you stay in our system, but you don't invest, but we give you a dying brand. And some owners are willing to do that. Some others are saying, no, I'm willing to spend the money necessary to move up to one of these fresher brands. So they're truly having strategies designed to manage the life cycle of brands. Finally, these ultra-luxury and ultra-budget phenomena, I've decided to illustrate this with the Gini index or Gini coefficient. Have you heard about this coefficient before? It's not the beverage, Gini, you know. Okay, Gini coefficient is an index typically used to measure how wealth or the creation of wealth in a nation, in a country, or in a certain location, how this wealth is actually shared, right, amongst the people that have created it, all right? So it's a measure of equalities or inequalities in a society from a wealth standpoint, all right? And the index, the index here, the closer to 1 you are, the more the wealth is, let's say, equally shared the closer to zero you are, the more the wealth is equally shared for most of the people in the population. Everybody has its fair share of the wealth that has been created, right? The more the closer you get to 100 or to 1, depending on if it's a percentage or an index, the more the wealth is actually only shared amongst a few elite people, right? Right? It's concentrated, okay? And if you look at the history here, you see that what's interesting is to see after all of that period we've seen from the 80s, the 19th century to, let's say, the Second World War, and even after that, we've seen an increasingly equal sharing of wealth in Europe, in developed countries, in Europe and in the US. Increasingly equal sharing of wealth. And what is striking here is that from the, let's say, the 60s in the US and probably from the 90s in Western Europe, the trend has reversed, and has reversed in a significant way, clearly. Wealth is less and less shared equally amongst people, right? Now you can think about anything you want, but from a business standpoint, what it means is that what we used to call the middle class, right, is kind of disappearing, right? That's what I'm thinking. And you can see that in retail, where you have the low-cost budget, low-budget things, and then you have the more upscale and luxury kind of things. And there's nothing in the middle, or the ones in the middle are struggling, clearly, right? In any industry is affected by this. For the hotel industry, what it means is that companies such as Club Med here, this is Club Med Lapla in France. This is not a picture from 1970, guys. This is a picture from yesterday, okay? This is how it looks. This is the traditional Club Med as it was originally thought and designed for the French middle class, right? Now, obviously, Club Med has totally changed its strategy over the past years to move upscale. This is one of the newest ones that they've opened, and this is high luxury. This is true luxury resort. And in fact, they're no longer developing any of these, and the only one that they keep as kind of middle class are the ones that they have in France, right? Historical ones. Because there still is a little bit of a middle class in France, and I'm not going to debate that, though we could after during the break if you want. But this is the movement towards either ultra luxury or ultra budget, because this is no longer working. This is no longer working. The ones what we usually was targeting the middle class for holidays and travel is no longer working. This is what's working now for the more of the budget. And when I say ultra budget, doesn't mean ultra cheap. What I mean by ultra is something, a nice budget. Budget hotels or economy hotels have been also reinvented. This is Motel One, German chain, right? Founded by a guy who used to work for Accor Group, right? And who decided to actually create a new brand a new breed of, let's say, budget brands here. And this is Motel One. This is budget. This is cheap. Great design for little money. So clearly targeting the ones that are not part of the elite who have most of the wealth, right? So this is another major trend. Global localization of brands, trends toward more brands that have a local flavor, whether they are new brands from IHG. Intercontinental has created Hualux for the Chinese market, but they're going to expand that also internationally. So they're going to have Hualux not only in China, but also international markets to capture Chinese travelers. And then Grand Mercure here, which is Meiju, I think, my pronunciation is probably not good enough, but this is Grand Meiju, which is the Chinese version of Mercure in China, right? Major trends of globalization of brands. Why? Because travel patterns have, what we've seen as well is that most of the growth in international travel is actually travel within regions as opposed to between regions of the world. So you have more growth in travel within the Asia-Pacific region than you have between Asia-Pacific and Europe, right? Much more growth. So the importance of some kind of local flavor has been identified, and they create new local brands. All right, quickly, I have another 5 minutes. We started late, so I take another 5 minutes. Yes?
Question. You talked about, for example, Mercure or Autograph, was it? You said that it was rather easy and inexpensive for them to convert independent hotels into brand ones because they don't really attach a lot of importance if the room is 26 square meters, but rather how the staff is acting and the attitude of the service and everything. on the contrary, which brands would have a hard time converting an independent hotel into a branded one?
Well, a traditional Marriott has very standardized room features. There's a ratio between rooms and public space area, right? So if you have 2,000 square meters of room, you need to have X square meters of public space. So from an existing hotel standpoint, not sure if there are architects in this room, but from a structural standpoint, it's very complicated to adjust the physical, the infrastructure of the building. Very costly. So when they give you these kind of criteria or requirements, it's too costly for them to switch.
Right, so
Regardless of how much more business they could generate, it's too costly. So some of these brands, although they are somehow slowly kind of making them a little less, it's more of a range. It's more of a range, but historically it was exactly, it was exactly this. You have to remember that when Marriott or Hilton brands were created, was truly the beginning of international travel, truly, and international business at a mass level. And what they were trying to do is to give people the same room all over the world and the same services all over the world, because people at the time didn't travel in the same way than we do today. Today, probably we'd like to have different things in different parts of the world, but in the past, mostly the American travelers expected to have the exact same thing. So you go down to the lobby is the exact same that you've seen in Houston, Texas, and it's in Beijing, right? So that was the reason. But yes, these brands are, and they're trying to create new brands, which for those specialists in marketing and branding is a challenge. Because we know that you need to have, when you try to convey the message of a brand, you need to have some elements to work with so that it can carry the same message. There must be some kind of DNA in a brand. It's easy to define the DNA of a brand with physical component, because you can measure, but for intangible, it's much more complicated. So which is why they were reluctant in doing that, and now it's simply that business opportunity is too big.
I have a question with regards to a major trend in hotel industry, is that is CRM no longer, I don't think it's necessary.
No, because it's for the movie.
I have a question with regards to the major trends in hotel industry. Is CRM no longer a trend in terms of the hotel industry, whereby some of the hotels choose not to pursue a CRM program, but some brands are also slowly starting to realize, yes, there is a need, so is this no longer a trend anymore, CRM?
Well, yes, no, it still is a reality. I don't think CRM in itself, customer relationship management in itself, is a true game changer, because nobody has really truly figured out how to use it effectively, I think. Now, although this is still a reality, a lot of hotel companies are still investing in customer relationship management, but this is still part of whether it's part of their frequent or loyalty programs, or if it's part of their distribution strategy. It still is a reality. I simply don't think it's a true game changer, because people haven't really found a way to make it work extremely significantly. But I'm not talking about it because that would be more part of what I would consider as a distribution activity as opposed to the brand, right? But yes, you're right. I mean, some brands, for instance, even though now Four Seasons, for instance, for a long time never wanted to have a loyalty program, because they figured that loyalty didn't need to be purchased; it had to be earned. So in a loyalty program, you purchase things, right? You purchase people's preference. But now they've changed. You know that they have one. Okay, so it's still part of the game, but it has never been a game changer. In fact, if you want a true story, the Hôtel Le Collectionneur in Paris, which used to be the Hilton Arc de Triomphe, right? I mean, they kicked out Hilton. One of the reasons was because of the loyalty program was too costly for them. One of the reasons, well, not the only one, but one of the reasons. Why? Because in the way they manage customer relationships, you had American customers earning their point mostly in the North American markets and North American Hilton, right? And redeeming them in Paris. And when you have two Hiltons in Paris, one in La Défense in the CNIT and the other one in Arc de Triomphe nearby, which one do you choose? So they were redeeming the points, and they redeemed the points typically at an average rate that is below market rate. So it was costly. It was an opportunity cost for the hotel. So people have not really found the right way to use that effectively. All right, and if you're interested in these things, you can also look at the balance sheet of hotel companies because their loyalty points, they have huge liabilities on their balance sheet. It's another bubble that's going to burst soon, I guess. Any other question on brands? All right, well, guess what? I think we need time to present or to discuss the program, but I have another one on owners, which I'm going to do rapidly. Okay. Because we don't have time. But my conclusion is that the trends in the hotel business have been trends that have made a craft-based industry, turned it into a professional service or specialized industry, where if you want to be successful in that industry today, you need to be a specialist in brands, you need to be a specialist in operating, or you need to be a specialist in distribution, or you need to be a specialist in the ownership side of the business. You cannot do everything and be a specialist in everything unless you're me. No, it's another joke. But this is really what it takes today. So there are some specialized careers, and people need to be quite clear about that for this industry. Now, with specialization also comes greater career opportunities, I think, right? And guess what? The good thing is that we have designed our program around these 4 specializations. And Cyril will explain you what we do. If you have any other question, I will be happy to discuss with you outside after the presentation of the program. I will be available, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you very much.
My name is Cyril Lanrezac. I did that MBA 16 years ago, so I'm an alumnus of that program. I worked in the industry for 15 years, abroad, in operation, in head office, in various roles. So I've been mostly in that sector. And I rejoined ESSEC as the director of the corporate relation of that program. So let me tell you more about this program. This program was founded in 1981, as Professor Nicolas Graf mentioned before. It was a joint venture with Cornell. How many of you knows Cornell? Okay. Cornell in the United States is the best hotel school. The dean of Cornell at the time quit his position and came to France to create that program with ESSEC. We, in 2006, for various reasons, we split. So we are not anymore with Cornell. We are accredited as CSB and EQUIS. I mean, if you look kind of those accreditation, that's part of the best one around the world. And we are accredited Bac plus 5 level 1 by the French state. So the campus, you know, you are here, 30 kilometers from Paris, easy access by car or public transportation, e-learning services, sport and recreation facilities. Our program has been split as well in 2006 with a 1-year track program dedicated for people which are above 26 years old, and a 2-year track program which the average age at the entry is 23, 24 age. The profile for the 2-year tracks, they are generally people who have a bachelor, and then in the middle takes 1 year or 2 years to improve their English and to gain work experience, and generally abroad. That's the major profile. With one exception, for the bachelor, is the BTS Hotelier, where we do have mostly 25%, because it is a program dedicated in hospitality, which most of them do in 3 years but recognized as 2. But if not, you need a Bac plus 3, except this BTS Hotelier, and 1 or 2 years abroad. But that is things that we can discuss depending on your profile. The 1-year track, there is 2 kinds of people. People which are coming already from the hospitality industry and that want to gain new knowledge in order to build, to continue to grow in their career, and some career switcher. The career switcher need to be analyzed carefully, because as well in the hotel industry, whether which position you are targeting, the hospitality like people coming from the hospitality. But we do. I have an example of Pierre-Jean Rumeau, graduated in 2012, which was working in SAP, 35 years old, and which is today a general manager in Bali. So that is totally possible, but it needs to be analyzed carefully. So the one-year track program is set in a way you have 24 UV, and this is exactly the same than ESSEC, meaning that you will have roughly a 1/3, 30 to 40% of courses which are mandatory, and then you build your specialization around the elective we are proposing. Elective that are also open in the Grande École. So you are able to take courses for the Grande École. In the one-year track, you will take more or less only 4. This program is known to be the program which has the most hours of courses in ESSEC, and which is a very intensive program. So you need to know that. The 2-year track program is set in 2 years with an internship in the middle of 6 months, starting from beginning of April to end of September, or in apprenticeship. Roughly 45, 50 students a year. 15 to 20 will do an apprenticeship. It is true, mostly French, open to foreigners, but then they need to speak French, because if not, difficult to get one. And then internship. And that as well, in your application, it is something to balance, because whether in internship, it's not difficult to find a very, and if you are skilled for it, a very high-level internship in feasibility, in Starwood head office, Marriott head office, Hilton head office, whether with a consulting firm such as GLL, HVS, and I can name a lot more, which are very specific, or even same in the e-commerce section. Whether in an apprenticeship, the offer will be way smaller. It's you take it, but you cannot, and that drive, obviously, the next first job that you will get after graduation. Core courses, so financial accounting, business computing, strategy marketing, applied research method. I mean, obviously you can read them. This program is known by professionals to be highly numerical, highly financially driven. As well, we are very well known for the people you will learn, for example, one of the main courses at the first trimester, end user business tool, where you work macro on Excel, and generally people we place, the company are very impressed by the level that you get very concretely to build, I don't know, reporting or whatsoever. But as well, very concrete tools to make the difference in your professional life. If you have Sam, if you do have any question at certain stage, do not hesitate to raise your hand. No questions so far? 4 electives. We have 4 concentration where you can specialize. E-commerce. Peter O'Connor, I don't know if you saw him, it was the gentleman who stand here for 10 minutes, used to be the academic director of the program for the last 10 years. He has been named now number 2, Dean of the Academic for all ESSEC. And he has given us a dimension in e-commerce which is enormous. I mean, some of our alumni, we will see some example. I can name Christopher Michaud, VP Global Market at Expedia, which is a graduate from 2001. I can name Chinmay Sharma, VP Distribution and Revenue Management for Louvre Hotel, and I can name others. But we have also this dimension in e-commerce, which is very important. Real estate and development. I think Nicolas Graf in his presentation gave you a glimpse about all, oops, sorry, what happened? That should be Nicolas Graf gave you in this presentation the wide range of possibility to work, and that typically, maybe some of you knew, but yes, a hotel is an operation, but it's a real estate asset. So there is plenty of our alumni working worldwide for consulting firm, for into development. Many vice president development of hotel chain are part of our alumni network. So it's a very specific also future job. Luxury service management, because as you may know, we also have an MBA in luxury management, which is also highly well known. And so we can gain in hospitality, one part of the business is luxury, about branding, and Nicolas Graf also mentioned a lot of things about it. So definitely another concentration is possible. And entrepreneurship. You need to know that ESSEC is the business school in France getting real life, truly entrepreneurship projects, roughly 50 projects a year which are becoming live, and 80% alive 3 years after. Why? Because they have been incubated into ESSEC Venture. So there is kind of very high knowledge teachers which will tackle your project and make them progress and making sure that they are feasible or not. So those three concentration are a set of 3 courses, but obviously after in the elective you can even get more. So e-commerce, e-marketing, database management, internet development, real estate and development, property, real estate finance, feasibility. For example, in that part, BNP Paribas, you get the feasibility part, you get the asset management part, you get the transaction part. Luxury brand management, luxury vs marketing, brand management, CRM we were speaking about before. Obviously, courses of CRM are also available in order to get more knowledge about. And entrepreneurship, project development, business planning, SME. So the teaching method, very interactive, very participative, intensive teamwork. Generally, you are the best friends at the beginning of the program, and then at the end you know who are your friends and who are not. Field projects, simulation and exercise. Few main teachers teaching with us. Sumni Choi, professor of revenue management, which has a tremendous career with Marriott in revenue management. Peter O'Connor, I mentioned him. Bob Katzner, teaching financial accounting, a big milestone in the program as well. Paul Beals in feasibility, real estate. Nicolas Graf in real estate. And Stefan Groschel on the HR part as well, and responsible for the share in human resources at ESSEC. I was mentioning it before, type of students we get. So 72% coming with a licensed bachelor, 5% who have already a master degree, and 25 BTS, but specifically the BTS hotelier. Career Service Office that I do represent with one of my colleagues, which is not here today, Geneviève Dantin. Career and educational choices, enhancements of recruitment opportunities, workshops and events through the years. I mean, for example, we are working this year for a company forum dedicated to hospitality, for the company to come and discuss with the future graduate for possibility of employment. Some company also come on a regular basis to try to target some talents. Last year, 4 Seasons came for the MIT program and recruited 2 in finance and 2 in room division and MIT. Because MIT program, this is a very blurry line. I mean, some people say, oh, I did an MBA, so why would I go in a management training program? But the management training program generally is you are a full employee. It's not a training, you have a salary. But the thing is that you are tackled in a set of people that the company is willing to invest. Now, all the companies do not manage those programs the same. So obviously, there is no standard point. So, but it's also a very good way to be identified as a future talent in the company. Individual counseling, we have an open door policy, and also to give some advice. Career-related panel discussion with executive, recruitment session, resume or CV book distribution. We just closed the CV book for this year, and we'll be sending it 200 hard copy and a 2,000 database online copy that recruiters worldwide can have an overview about the students being in the program right now. Company presentation, company visit, introduction to professionals. This is, for example, industry leader, people who came last year in 2012. Jean Frèvre, Area VP, Western Europe for Hilton, Ingrid Desroy, Vice President Human Resources for Europe, Middle East, Server, Charles Human Hotel Evaluation System. So always it is representing kind of the 4 pillars: real estate and finance, e-commerce, hotels, and as well catering. Many of our alumni work in different functions with Elior, Sodexo, Compass, but as well Groupe Flow, Fauchon. The CEO of Fauchon is coming next week in the school and is an alumni. But as well in the catering part, we do have as well many alumni who are continuing. It is a service-oriented business where we do have also part of our alumni network and kind of career path field which are possible. Sodexo. So about the student life, incredible. There is students which are here. You could you can speak with them. Me, it was already 17 years ago, so I suppose I'm too old. But tremendous number of associations. I had to say maybe one mention. If you do come, you need to analyze. So apprenticeship is definitely a way where you will do the program for the 2 years in 3 trimesters instead of 5. So you don't, there is courses you are not able to take, so that's part of the decision. And as well, living in the campus or not. And at the time, I was a Parisian, so I lived in Paris. But in a way, if I had the financial means, I did regret. Because of course, as well, being in the campus all the time, it's a tremendous opportunity. As well, I didn't mention, but obviously the program has always been very international, even if there is a slight decrease in several years, but there is always many nationality as well. So it's a very good blend, multicultural program, which is very interesting in terms of exchange between students. Close to the campus, private room, gym, squash, court of tennis, just behind, internet connection. So that's in the student residence. I mean, if you are at that point, in the welcoming section that you saw this morning, there is the part called ESSEC, which is here. We can also give you information about what is possible in terms of accommodation. Alumni network, more than 1,480 alumni. With the next batch, we will be above 1,500 in over 50 countries. An active and loyal network. The network of the alumni of IMI, as it is related size and also has been very well managed, there is really a feeling, the word is maybe too strong, of family. We have get-together around the world. We have one every month in Paris. We have 1 or 2 in Dubai. We have one in New York. We are creating one in Singapore. We have one in London, where generally we have big hubs of alumni. So this is a very active alumni network. E-newsletter, job, alumni directory, international meeting, get-together, I just mentioned it. So the repartition of our alumni worldwide, around the 30 years, roughly, I would say the number of French is 60%, but you see that only 32% work in France. So meaning many French going for career abroad, where maybe there is actually bigger opportunity in the current work environment. And as well, a lot in North America, even if this tendency right now with visa restriction is certainly, tendency is less than what it used to be. Latin America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and Middle East, which is still growing, actually. Kind of good opportunity, and even more if you do speak Arabic. Hospitality industry is also multicultural management, so traditionally a hotel, business operation, unit operation, but it's much more than this. It is also multicultural management of human resources, and we speak about that before, development, real estate, valuation and transaction, asset management, e-commerce. An industry still in expansion, but as Nicolas Graf showed in his slide, depending which part of the world. A few graduates, I'll let you read, a few graduates, and there is way more, it's impressive. Michael Levy, I don't know if you know a chain called Citizen Aim. If you don't know the concept, I invite you to look at it, very innovative concept. Dimitrios Zarikos, Regional VP for Four Seasons. Olivier Chavy, who knows who is Wilson Associates? Nobody? Wilson Associates is one of the 2 biggest design and architecture company worldwide. They are refurbishing the Queen Elizabeth II right now. They did the Armani Hotel at the Burj Al Arab. That's the one. There's two big companies in architecture design, in hospitality, and that's one of them. Vincent Levy, Starwood, Sodexo, VP Sodexo Asia, CEO of KFC as well in KFC, Yum Brand, the biggest catering company worldwide, bigger than McDonald's. If you had their three brands, Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell, thank you. Jalil Mekwar, Johnson Glassal Hotels, CEO America. Puneet Chatwal, which is the godfather for this promotion, which is the CEO of Steigenberger Hotels. I'll let you read the others. I have another page of more. I would say you see less e-commerce profile. Why? Because they had the tendency of coming from behind the 2000 year, 2000, which is quite normal. E-commerce is something that came a bit after. And this is really not an exhaustive list. For example, Rom Endler, do you know what is Sands International? Have you seen Ocean 11, the Venetian Hotel with Tom Cruise? That's part of Sands International. I mean, under the supervision of Nicolas Graf, I was very impressed. No, I said, no, sorry, I said Tom Cruise? I said Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt. Under the supervision of Nicolas Graf, I was very impressed. Sands International own 6-7 property worldwide, 40,000 rooms. In EBITDA, they make more money than any of the most hotel chain with 4,000 hotels. Why? Because they own everything. They own the gambling, they own the restaurants, they own the rooms. They are not just taking little fees. So very interesting. Huh?
Casino business.
Casino business, yeah. So few statements from some of our alumni. Puneet Chatwal, the 2-year journey at ESSEC MBA in hospitality inculcate me the ability to think outside of the box and find solutions. ESSEC hospitality helped build upon a solid foundation that I acquired in India and to help me build a bridge to Europe. The core content, the quality of the faculty, the settings in Cergy-Pontoise, the nationality mix, and the exposure to industry professionals make this fantastic experience and a platform for future success. I know I come from that program and I know I work for that program, but I love that program. And I can tell you, I know many of the alumni, and I never known one who could complain about the quality of the courses. Not one. Zara Pira, she's Vice President Development for Sub-Saharan Africa, Accor, provided me a solid grounding in general business knowledge and better understanding of the specificity of the hospitality industry. I had enabled me to think globally and strategically and to look at the hospitality world in a different way. The ESSEC hospitality curriculum, the quality of the professor and the professional of the alumni network all gave me the tools necessary to achieve what I have over the past 14 years. Last one, I will not give you 1,000, last one. Elie Younes from 2001, Senior VP, Head of Group Development at Carlson Residor. The ESSEC MBA had a tremendous impact on my career life. It is probably one of the best things I have ever done. It widened my horizon, helped me meet with some fantastic people from all over the world, and set me on the right track for my first job at HVS in London immediately after graduation. In short, it helped me learn about myself, open the doors to the business world, and it gave me great tools again that start my career. Now, statistics. To check, that is the 2000 batch, 2012 batch. So you can see by function, people going in revenue management. Between years, the trend can slightly change, but you will find revenue management, room division, people staying in operation, sales and marketing, consulting, development, financial and accounting, F&B, a little bit, hotel management, HR project, a little bit. So this is wide. I mean, this is a very sector, specialized MBA in the sector. But inside the sector, it's a very general MBA, because in that sector, you do have all the representation of the different part of the business. In the 2000 by sector, so 46% in hotel operation. Obviously, remember as well, that is not because you do a 2-year track that you will avoid working on the ground level. I'm saying that because I worked in operation for quite a number of years, and I think also you are you can be credible in that industry as well if you show that you have been able to serve customer, that you're able to understand what is service. Even retail right now is interested by us. Why? Because actually the dimension of service is taking a much bigger place than it used to be. Hotel corporate office, consulting, e-commerce, I mean, huge specificities that we have where we are certainly part of the best of the world. I don't want to sound pretentious, and maybe even the best. Restaurant. But this is grand. And I would say that what is important in your thinking, if I may, is as well that you have a vision. This may change, but as well, what is important is to have a vision. And you can even discover it during the program. Average salary, it's important, knowing that those statistics are rather on the 2-year track program, which will be an average salary around between 35 and 40,000, which roughly for France can be a 2,000 euro net a month, roughly, a 35 is that. Knowing we are speaking rather for the 2-year track program, which are people getting out at 25 or 26, with 1 or 2 years work experience behind. Now for the 1-year tracker, or even if you are a 2-year track with a strong, it a lot depends. If you are a 1-year tracker without a hospitality background, you may take a first position at that price roughly in order to build your specificity and to grow and gain with your experience. Now, if you already do have a strong background, so the 1-year track, we have only 15, 20 students a year. So that's why the statistic will not be valid. But that is more based on the 2-year track program. Different partners. I mean, I'm sure you know many of those companies, but this is major partners that we do have. Future position possible, F&B manager, consultant, revenue manager, business development, e-commerce, purchasing, cost control, event, distribution, wide range, very wide range. Analyst. The cost of the program, on the 1-year track, 29,800, 33,000 in a 2-year track. This is a very substantial amount of money, obviously. Now, we are cheaper than our competition. And secondly, and I will speak for myself, it's really rapidly amortized, even when you do have to make a loan. I mean, definitely, I would not have had the same career without doing this investment. And I had a loan for part of it, and it took me a few years to reimburse, but definitely I didn't regret it. Financial aid, apprenticeship program, but that we can speak about on a one-to-one basis, knowing anyway, if you apply to the apprenticeship program, we do select people, accepting them in apprenticeship or not. Why? The program is highly intensive, and there is different parameters to analyze an application for apprenticeship. The academic, the financial need, and many other criteria. Scholarship, even if it's become harder and harder to get some, but then you can also speak with the when I said there is a stand with ESSEC, there is also the same stand is also can speak with you about the possibility about financing your studies. So if you already have a strong willingness to come, then I do invite you to speak with them as well. Bank loans, which are very low, which I think is a 2% loan, but if you are not French, you need a guarantor being based in France. Admission criteria, so I mentioned it before, Bac plus 3, bachelor degree, exception of the BTS hotelier, professional experience, minimum 1 year for 2-year track, minimum 3 years for 1-year track. TOEFL, programming is in English, so we need to make sure that you can handle English well. GMAT, who knows GMAT? Most of you. Well, for the one who don't, GMAT is the entry test to all American university. You will see many competitors right now branding their program MBA, which they will not ask you the GMAT. We wonder why. Leadership potential, previous experience outside the home country, very valued as well. We are an international program, and we like to have people which are looking for an international career. Admission calendar, application form deadline 1st of April. Even though you can give your GMAT even after, okay? And GMAT is something that if you want to apply for next September, it is something that you need to take serious from now. It is something that you need to work, that's just an opinion, but at least 3 to 6 months in advance, not constantly. Something that you need to prepare well. And knowing that generally in the test that you do, you can count that you will make 50 points less in the day of the exam because of the stress. That is really a statistic that has been proved. Now it is only a statistic. Deferred admission. Sometimes we say to someone, no, we do not believe you are ready, but under the condition that you work, for example, 1 year abroad, improve your English or not. We do have maybe 30% of people applying which generally are postponed for 1 year, which is that can be in the 2-year track or 1 year track, depending of your age and depending of your work experience. Application form, information online. That's it. Joëlle Harris, which is here today, she's the lady which is in charge of all the recruitment admission that you can talk with. Oops, sorry. And you can talk with her. She's here today. She can give you the different stage. She can give you the different stage of the process if you are interested. Then I don't know if you do have questions which can interest everybody, or if not, I'm here all day.
So it's no use to already have an apprenticeship when we apply, because you may.
No, in a way, you need to know if you want to be here with or without apprenticeship. Yes. And then you apply. Then we will tell you if we give you an admission with the selection to continue the process. That doesn't mean we're guaranteeing you that you will find it, because at the end of the day, the apprenticeship, it's not us which will sign the contract. You will need to persuade the company that you are the right person for the apprenticeship.
Is it a good idea to already look for a company and try to guarantee an apprenticeship and then come to you and apply?
That will not be part of our criteria to make you in. It's a plus. Now, honestly, the one that will are 100%, even if we need to talk more about the plus and the minus of it, 95% of the apprenticeship which are being given come from the one we are proposing. It is becoming extremely difficult to get one. And I'm sorry to break some dream. Do not even think about it in a palace hotel. Do not even think about it in a palace hotel. And generally in hotels, roughly it will be Accor or Ascot, because for different reasons. And the rest can be in catering, Elior, Sodexo, Group Flow, can be in development in certain case. We do have an apprenticeship in development with BNP, with Adagio, but 95% come for us. I mean, the package of apprenticeship is hugely costly for companies. It costs them 55,000 euros, so more than a full recruitment. After there is argument, tax d'apprentissage is, but it costs them a lot. So that's why we have some agreement with some company and we can propose things, but it's much more limited than what you can do in internship. So it also depends on your objectives. Any other questions? No? No. You know, the TOEFL and the GMAT will replace that. Sir?
Regarding the GMAT, in terms of points, do you have any requirements?
We can say that if you do above 500, there is you are on the right track, and little below we will start to study cases. Way below, that will not work. 550, sorry, 550. Yeah, that's the cutting edge, yes. Which is, yeah, mostly 550.
My question is, program particularly benefit for the international students, where you support international students to look for the internship opportunities overseas?
Always?
Overseas. I mean, the international internships overseas, not in France, but overseas in other countries. Will you have a particular platform to support the international
Yeah.
students?
Yes. Actually, I do a lot. It also depends what you are targeting. But obviously, we do work on a one-to-one basis constantly to try to fulfill your needs. And we are using our tremendous network to do so. So yes, we have traditional interns.
Internships can be global, and we provide support to find internships globally. It's the apprenticeship that's
very French.
It's a very French thing.
Yeah.
But the internship is different.
I think we need to stop. We are here all the afternoon for individual questions, so do not hesitate to come with us. This is Joëlle Harris. I was mentioning about her actually just here. So you can put a face, a name on the face. Thank you very much.